To remain updated with the latest business news, click on the bell icon.
A topic that has come as somewhat of a surprise, at least for the manner in which the United States, more specifically, a couple of officials have raised this issue. But before I go into that, let's take a quick listen into what our Foreign Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, had to say on that.
It's interesting because we've seen for some time uh, what looks almost like a campaign on this issue. Now, I was just reading a report today that in the month of March, Europe has bought, I think, 15% more oil and gas from Russia than it did the month before. If you look at the major buyers of oil and gas from Russia, I think you'd find most of them are in Europe. We ourselves get the bulk of our energy supplies from the Middle East, about 7.5%, 8% of our oil from the US. In the past, maybe less than 1% from Russia. When oil prices go up, I think it's natural for countries to go out into the market and look for what are good deals for their people. But I am pretty sure if we wait 2 or 3 months and actually look at who are the big buyers of Russian gas and oil, I suspect the list won't be very different from what it used to be, and I suspect we won't be in the top 10 on that list.
Well, you heard this very measured, very calibrated response from the Foreign Minister when he was asked about India's purchase of Russian oil. And a couple of those points are very interesting and bear repetition. India's dependence on Russian crude oil is perhaps just around 1% of our annual imports. And yes, we import most of our crude, and we get it from practically all over the world, particularly the Gulf nations. And after what's happened in Ukraine, there are countries which have themselves increased their purchase, including from the European Union. And like the Foreign Minister pointed out, 3 months later, we would still not be more than 1%. And yet you have the Deputy National Security Advisor for International Economic Matters of the United States government, Dilip Singh, who is an Indian origin American, comes from a storied family, himself has gone to the best universities in America, is seen as a hardliner. But a statement that was completely unnecessary, very undiplomatic, and hot air really, because the fundamental issue is that Russian oil and gas is not in the sanctions list. So why single out India? Europe continues to import. Germany, which is at the bulwark of the European Union, depends for as much as 55% of its annual gas consumption on Russia. And that's not being stopped. In fact, there's a separate drama playing out with regard to payment. And Russia is insisting that now these countries who import Russian gas should pay in rubles because the dollar is practically been frozen as far as trading, dealing with Russia is concerned. So in such a situation, even if India were to go ahead and continue to do what it has done with respect to Russian crude oil purchases and explore an alternative mechanism called the Rupee-Ruble settlement system. And this is not something new, by the way. It's not something that's been designed to skirt the Western economic sanctions against Russia. It is decades old. Anyone with even a basic knowledge of international trade would tell you that there was a time when all of Indian-Russian trade, sizable amounts, were completely through this system. And even as late as the last decade, a mobile phone investment by Systema, one of Russia's largest companies, in an Indian telecom operator, Sham Telecom, that investment explored and was finally implemented through a Rupee-Ruble trade settlement. So it's not something that's being invented. It's not an instrument that is being designed in a crafty manner by India to evade Western sanctions. We are a law-abiding country, as is well known, but this pressure poses some discomfort as far as US-India trade and economic ties and political and strategic ties are concerned. And I'm sure there will be reflection within the US policy establishment. But in a situation where energy is out of the sanctions radar, India has an old trade relationship with Russia, even a new payment contract, if it were to use this Rupee-Ruble settlement system, is not something that is being designed now afresh to sort of skirt Western sanctions. And I think for the United States, which wants India to play a leading role, the situation, the sensitivities have to be understood. And there are sometimes we hear from the United States comments which seem to reflect that America understands India's situation. But then you have these statements which cause confusion. So in all of this, perhaps it is very important for the US and its representatives and officials to keep out politics out of what is a policy imperative for India and not mix up the two. And we'll see how this goes. Until then, I'm going to thank you for tuning in. And I'll request you to like, share, and subscribe to Business Today. We'll come back with more. Till then, goodbye.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share, and subscribe.